This lesson is on loading an array from the file names inside of a directory. We're going to use that to get the file names of some images that we'd like to display on our web page. Since we're moving in the direction of building a real estate application, eventually we're going to need to see some images of houses. So first I'm going to go ahead and run this program. I've preloaded it in the address bar. So I'm going to hit enter, and you can see we get a list of one home after another. Lovely little bit of images. Let's go ahead and look at the directory structure before we look at the code. So here we are. There's the www directory, that's our root, and under there I have a house_images directory. And you can see here in the thumbnail view that I've got 5 homes showing up in the directory. All of them are JPEGs, JPJ files, and they don't have any particular naming scheme here. This is just White House without a number. Some of these have 1 at the end of their number. We may expand on the homes as we go along. But the numbering is not critical to the display. We're going to show you how to look at this directory and read all the files in the directory so that they appear on the web page. If we were to remove one of these pictures, less would display. If we were to add more pictures, more would display. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here we are at the code. Let me move to the top. So the normal hit list here, we get the root, and I'm going to the root, and I'm going to not a file level, but I'm going to a directory level. And this is the dir name, short for directory name, of the house_images directory. So now we use a new PHP statement called open_dir for opening a directory. We pass the directory name to it, and it brings back what I'm calling here a dir handle or directory handle. It's very much like our file pointer that we use when we open a file. We're going to use this to get a handle on where we need to be and use it in some other PHP statements. So we come down here and we say if $dir handle, and that basically means did we get a good pointer to the directory that we passed it or not? And if it's true we did, then we can go ahead and begin to execute this code. So now, create a new empty array, and I'm calling it house files. Now this is kind of an interesting statement. I'm doing a lot in one statement. But if you look around the web, you'll see things set up like this. I'm doing like everybody else does, and you might as well too. So, in the inner part of this, we read the first file based on the directory handle, and it puts it into a file variable. It puts the whole thing in there, the whole file name. And it checks to make sure that we got it. So as long as this is true, this is always fun to say, if it's not false, which is another way of saying true, but that's how it's evaluated. All this basically says, as long as you find a file and you don't run to the end of it, great, keep on looping. So, look at the if statement. I check to make sure that the file is not a dot or 2 dots. There are these directory files that live in just about every directory on a Windows PC, and there's a dot and a 2 dot file, and they don't do anything for us whatsoever. But they can mess up our program. So we have to learn to skip them. And that's what this if statement is doing. It's saying as long as we don't have the dot file and we don't have the double dot file, then we got a file we can deal with. So now, I take that file and I push it onto the house files array. We sort the house files after this loop, and then we have another loop, the for each loop, to go through the array and display the image name. Now notice, I'm going again with the house images and the element, which is the actual file name, and putting it in image name. So now, I use this thing, image name, to build an image source tag. See? The source, the src, on an image tag is what tells the HTML where to find the file and display the image. We don't open this and read it the way we do text files. We just point to it. I want to go back to the actual web page itself, and let's look at the view source. Let's look at what HTML was generated from this process. So we're here. So I'm going to do a view page source, And you can see source house images / bayview1.jpg. Now, this works because it's relative referencing to the file. I didn't have to put in http:// and so forth because it's running in relative reference to the root. So we're at the www level, and one directory down in house images is where I find the files. So this is why this works. And you can see I have them all run together in this case. If I wanted to have it view a little better, I would have put the new line tags at the end of each image tag. Let's take a quick look at that. There we go. Where I have here with the paragraph, I can add the \n, and then I'll go ahead and run it again. I'm going to run it from here, and now I have to replace this front part with localhost to be really running on the web server, the WAMP. Now I'll do a view page source, and you can see they line up a lot nicer. That makes it a little bit easier to read and debug if you're having some problems with the formatting of your image tag and you want to look at it. That ends our lesson on loading an array from a directory.